What if I told you that good aim doesn't win you games? Now let's get this straight. Having insane aim is important for a precision-based game like Valorant. However, what's heavily underlooked and actually gets you wins is having good game sense that allows you to make the right plays at the right time. At the top level of Valorant, everyone's mechanics are insane. What determines the winner in these games is utilizing strategies to outbrain and outsmart the other team. Let's break down 10 crazily easy plays that all the pros use that you can instantly implement into your game to climb up the rankings. First up is learning to counter enemy abilities with your own. If the enemy is throwing abilities at you, you should always try to fight back with abilities of your own if you have the time and space for it. Now this isn't League of Legends where certain champions can directly counter other champions. You can't see what agents the other team selects, so trying to perfectly counter a team is impossible. However, there are still common agents players will likely choose depending on the map, and if you have the right agents and abilities, you'll be able to counter them. One of the most common ability counters we see is JETT against Sova. When normally going up against a Sova dart, two typical situations that occur are 1. Your location gets revealed before you can shoot it down, or 2. You shoot it down before the dart spots anyone out, but by shooting it and making noise, your location is still revealed. For our first example, if you're JETT going up against Sova, a good counter is to quickly throw a smoke directly at a dart. This obscures the vision of the dart and will keep your team's location a mystery. A unique example is using Viper's Pit to counter the enemy's Viper's Pit. In this clip, Nevera ults right in front of Zom's ult. By doing this, Nevera's ult slowly creeps his way into Zom's and now actually gives him vision first compared to the opposite if players were to just run into a typical Viper's Pit. This allows for a very easy kill to be done. For a third example, many players have discovered that KO is a great counter to Chamber. Because 2 of Chamber's abilities are weapon based, if Chamber decides to solely rely on those abilities, KO's ultimate in 0 point will completely silence him out, thus leaving him weaponless. These are just a few more advanced examples, but even doing something as simple as throwing a flash in response to an enemy's flash is an easy and simple way of turning the odds of a fight into your favor. Always look for what abilities enemies are throwing at you and counter them with your own. Moving on, a crucial part of Valorant is coordination and combining your team's abilities to make plays. This has been greatly highlighted in Valorant Champions. By combining agent abilities together, you can pull off some stunning outplays that will leave the enemy extremely frustrated. One of the most popular agent combinations that we've seen is ASTRA and Breach. ASTRA uses Gravity Well and Breach uses Fault Line in the same area. With these two abilities together, the enemy is completely trapped and all you have to do is shoot him down while he looks silly. The key part with these combos is the timing, making sure that you and your team execute and go in at the same time. Sound is key to timing these abilities right when the enemy is running in. If you want to be crazy like Fnatic, you can also throw in a Raise Nade and Aftershock for safe and guaranteed damage. If you pull this off, the enemy team is guaranteed to be tilted. I'm sure Cloud9 was gutted after this play was done to them. Another crazy ability combo you can do is with Sova and Breach. Sova will arrow drone and tag the enemy player while Breach prepares a fault line immediately following the tag. Follow that up with an Aftershock that forces the player to move and you're guaranteed a kill. Either the enemy tanks the Aftershock or they try to escape while being tagged and it's an easy spray down. These are a few common combinations that pros will use that you can easily implement with some simple communication from your teammates on the placement and timing of these abilities. We've gone through some amazing plays already, but if you want to truly improve your Valorant skills and climb up to Radiant, then you want to check out our website at SkillCapped.com. On our website, we have multiple comprehensive guides and courses on various aspects of the game. If you want to learn even crazier plays than what we're showing you today, we got you covered. Or perhaps you want to truly master a certain agent. We got that covered as well, and so much more. We guarantee you're going to see significant improvements quickly, so if you're interested in taking your game to the next level, the link will be provided in the description below. Now Valorant is a team-based game, so unless you work together, no matter how cracked you yourself may be, you're going to have a tough time actually winning. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they always say. An area that is often lacking at lower rankings is making sure each player has set roles and everyone knows exactly what each other is going to do during a site hit. That way when the call is made to go, everyone fires off doing what they were assigned. If we look at the start of this execute by Furia, every player initiates their part of the play at the same time once they find that TenZ is caught out of position. JETT pops her ult and dashes into halls to wipe out TenZ. Sova's job is to throw a dart onto site and prepare to ult if anyone is spotted out. With these two plays, the B site is almost entirely taken. Now going to the other players, ASTRA immediately ults down to cover spawn and market. Her job is to hold the fort in middle to catch players that are rotating. Sage and Skye have simpler roles where their goal is to fill in the gaps and slow down the push. This includes clearing out switch and stairs as well as using abilities to slow down the players at spawn. With all these pieces thought out before the play, it can be immediately set to action when the time is right. Now this is a pro level team play. You don't necessarily have to be this specific, but everyone should be assigned a job. You'll find that your sight hits will be much more effective this way than if everyone was to run in like a monkey. Going next, we've talked a lot so far about outplaying the enemy. To make an outplay though, you also have to consider what the enemy is thinking to attempt to predict what they're going to do. To give a basic example, we have Dapper going for a Killjoy ult in halls. Now how would an enemy react to this ult? Most likely they'll either run away from the ult's range or they'll try to destroy it. Because of this, Dapper is expecting a shock dart to come towards the ult and decides to stay close by as a result. This way, if shock darts come by, he can block it with his own body so that his ult doesn't get hit and cancelled. Had he left the ult on its own, it likely would have gotten easily destroyed, but by predicting what the enemy would do, he prevented that from happening. During your games, try to think 2 steps ahead of the enemy. Figure out what they're likely going to do and have a reaction ready for it. This next trick is so simple, yet we don't see players doing it enough, and that is asking for abilities from your team. If you're in trouble and need help, call for backup from your teammates. Whether you need a heal, smoke, molly, anything of the sorts can be called upon if available and within reason. Most commonly, you want to call for smokes and flashes to assist you in slowing down the enemy or pushing through for a kill. Particularly if you're on defense and trying to hold the site with someone, coordinating your abilities is going to be key to halting the attacker push. Team Vikings takes this to an entirely different level in this play here. In this round, Gambit is charging through onto the A site. When taking the A site, it's pretty common that you want to take control of U-Haul, so the A players call for a molly lineup that Viper conveniently has to land right in front of U-Haul. This molly is perfectly timed, and because it makes enemies vulnerable, ASTRA was able to grab 3 extremely fast kills. Again, this is a bit of an extreme example, but we wanted to showcase it to show how much of an impact these simple calls can be. Following that up, another common mistake we see players making is giving up control of choke points too easily. We get it, sometimes your timing's off, or the enemy just slips by accidentally through your radar. It happens. What matters more is how we react to the situation. If the enemy takes map control of one area, it's important that you try to take control of elsewhere. In this play, Fnatic takes A short control extremely fast and gets to the site at god speed. As a reaction, Vision Striker decides to actually double push A long, knowing that the site hit is likely going to be a split push. By doing so, they regain A long control after losing A short, and through that, Vision Strikers was then able to focus back onto the site itself and snag a couple extra bonus frags on the way. Had Vision Strikers stayed on the site and let Fnatic come from A long and A short, they likely wouldn't have been able to hold it down. By being proactive, a nearly impossible round becomes much more doable. Now this is one option to do. Another option could have been for Vision Strikers to rush down middle to go for a flank and pinch the site from all directions prior to playing retake. However, given the positioning of Vision Strikers, they had no way to retreat, so their best move was to push to one of the choke points and try to delay for rotations. Point being, never give anything away for free to the enemy. You always want to be the one that's taking control yourself for free, or at the very least trading one area for another. Next up, flashes are great for making aggressive maneuvers, however they're also fantastic for making defensive plays. If you're alone with no backup on a site, using flashes to delay a push can give your team more time for rotations. It can also cause attackers to second guess their site hit, making them feel less confident in their attack. This will throw off their coordination, and if they decide to keep pushing, there will likely be openings that you can exploit. A unique way to use flashes is to blind enemies while they're trying to pick up and plant a spike. In this clip, Skye throws out 2 flashes in a row at the enemy. This caused them to lose track of where the spike was, and as a result, they weren't able to pick it up in time to get to the site and plant. With how little time there was left, this was a surefire way to win the round. An aggressive push after the flash could have also worked out, but it leaves that risk that the enemy was able to turn your flash and actually get a good duel against you. Rather than take that risk, utilize your flashes to simply blind the enemy so they have a tougher time finding the spike on the ground. If the time is low, these precious seconds could make the difference between the enemy being able to plant or not. This play we're about to show is one of the sickest we've seen in Valorant champions. Best part is it's super easy to execute. Astra stars are recalled, they leave behind a smoke that lasts a few seconds. What we can do with this ability is make surprise plays behind this brief smoke. Most players when they see an Astra smoke will assume that it's real and will last the usual time frame. Because of this, you can actually surprise them by recalling a star to bring up a shorter smoke. From there, you want to group up your team behind the smoke and wait for it to fall. Once it falls, you can then push forward as a group and catch players off guard. This was executed perfectly by Fnatic on this eco round. Vision Strikers was caught off guard and the team was able to get an easy kill with just classics. Vision Strikers was also forced to back away and hit a different site. You don't see that happening much when you're at a massive weapon disadvantage. Next time you're playing Astra, try faking the enemy out by recalling your stars, and you're sure to catch them off guard by giving them a false sense of security. Arguably one of the worst feelings in Valorant is when you're constantly being interrupted while planning a spike. Every second of delay is another second given for the defenders to rotate and retake the site. So it's very anxiety provoking as an attacker if you're having trouble getting the spike down. One method of doing this that's incredibly annoying is Raze's Satchels. It's one of the few abilities that can knock a player off their position, plus you have 2 of them. This makes it a perfect weapon to stall the plant. The only other abilities that can knock or move players are Gravity Well from ASTRA and Rolling Thunder from Breach. However, Gravity Well is much harder to execute, and the number of times you get Rolling Thunder are scarce. This leaves Raze's Satchels as the #1 ability for delaying spike plants. To delay as long as possible, you want to wait until just before 4 seconds to throw your first satchel, and then the same for the second satchel. That's a solid 6 or 7 seconds of delay for your team to rotate and start retaking. This delay gave Fnatic plenty of time to get the flank going and ultimately get set up to retake the site. Make sure to inform yourself or your Raze of this play. If you're a Jett main, you're going to want to listen up to this. Jett's abilities are all about aggression and creating space for your team. Because of this, a judge in the hands of Jett can be deadly with her dash, especially when done in a narrow choke point. The most common place to implement this play is in U-Haul. Combined with Flash, Jett can dash into close quarters on players in U-Haul with relative ease. From there, she's in perfect range to deal deadly damage with the judge while also taking a crucial part of a site. Enemies will be forced to respect the judge. They'll either burn extra utility to clear you out, or they'll decide to ignore you completely and face the rest of your team that's stacked elsewhere. Both options won't be optimal for them. U-Haul is really where this play will be most effective, but it can be done in any narrow area of the map. Best part is it will certainly tilt your enemies if they're constantly dying to a judge of all things. Last but not least, this is actually a really simple play, yet we've hardly seen it done as often as it should. If you have a good read on an enemy or have straight up identified where they're positioned, a great way to force them out is by throwing a molly at them. The enemy has no option but to now reveal themselves, and it's an easy kill. If you have another teammate with you, this play is nearly foolproof. This teammate can watch out for you if the enemy decides to peek out, while you're mid molly, plus they can then help you with a gunfight to guarantee the enemy goes down. That's all we have for today's video. Next time you're playing Valorant, remember these plays and add them to your game. We guaranteed they'll snag you some extra rounds and dubs. As always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below to help support us. I'm Dr. Zora, we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.